Hey guys, it's Tim here. Today, let's tackle the Police's classic, Every Breath You Take. So dial in a healthy dose of delay and chorus and let's get going. Before you do though, don't forget to subscribe to get all the full song tutorials that you want. And hey, you don't even have to leave YouTube to get the tabs. They're all right here on screen. Just follow along. Let's get going. To play along with this lesson, be sure that you tune your guitar down half a step. The original recording was half a step down, so that's the way I'm playing it today. The intro, which also functions as part of the verse, is 8 measures long. So let's talk about the picking pattern first, and then we'll get into the chords and moving them around. The first chord that we encounter is an A add 9. So we're going to put our first finger on the 5th fret of the bottom string. And this chord involves a little bit of stretching, and we're going to put our second finger on the 7th fret of the 5th string, and our pinky out on the 9th fret of the 4th string. So we get this nice spaced out, open sounding chord. Okay, so now the picking pattern that we want to do is go up those 3 strings and come back to the 5th string. And now you want to hop your first finger up to the 6th fret of the 3rd string. Okay, and then you can just hold that as we finish off the picking pattern. We go back to string 4, 5, and 4. And now, truth be told, you could keep this picking pattern once you have it down for the entire song. You don't have to change it. There are little variations throughout, and we'll touch on a couple of them, but that picking pattern is essentially what's going to tie the whole song together. Okay, now, you can just, as you're learning the song, just use all downs to start with. Okay, Andy Summers, he didn't use all downs though, as near as I can tell. Every highest note gets an upstroke. So you would go down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up. And that would be very close to how he plays it. And there is a slight difference to the feel of it. I do like the feel putting those upstrokes in there. It gets a little closer to the authentic sound of the song. But just start with all downs and don't even bother changing chords at the beginning. Just work on that, because once you have that down, it's just a simple matter to start moving this around. The other thing that I did forget to mention that we should cover is palm muting. You put a palm mute on the entire song. So as you're practicing this, you want to put that blade of your palm and mess around with exactly where you place it on the bridge. If you go too far up, it's just going to deaden the strings, right? It's just going to sound like that. And if you go too far back, then there's no palm mute on there at all. Okay, so you want to make sure that you've got it slightly palm muted. I call it the chuggy sound. Get the chuggy sound. So just mess around exactly where you've got that hand placed, and you'll find that sweet spot. So we play that A add 9 chord for 2 measures, and then we do the exact same picking pattern down on an F sharp. So we're going to do that spaced out stretchy thing. But now instead of moving our finger up a fret like we did, we were on 5 and we moved it up to 6, we'll just keep it on the 2nd fret. Like that. Okay? And do that for 2 measures. Now, to get these chords to really ring out and feel comfortable, you can plant your fingers as you go up. And then hold them for that rest of that measure. And then replant them for the 2nd measure. And actually, if you watch the original video of the track, you can see him doing that. He'll do like that. Okay, now let's move on to our next chord, D. We move up to the 5th fret of the 5th string. And we do that same picking pattern. We just have to figure out the new notes. We go, so 5, 7, 9 on their respective strings. And then we come down to the 7th fret of the G string. Okay, and then we can move up to E and do the same thing. Okay, and that would be keeping the picking pattern the same, but there's those little variations that I told you about. And in the intro, that's where one variation comes in, where you can go. So what we're doing is going up those 3 notes spaced out like that, and hitting that 11th fret twice, and then coming back to the 9th fret with an octave jump at the end. And then you can hear that slide too. And then we go back to the A, and that's our intro. And then we get into the verse, which is the exact same. The only difference between the verse riff and that intro is that the verse is extended to 16 measures. It's basically that same riff plays twice, but the first time that it ends, instead of going back to that A chord, we drop down to that F sharp. So you would end it. And then repeat it. And then from there, it's the same thing that we just covered in the intro. Now let's get into the next part of the song, the chorus. The chorus is another 8 measures long, and this time we're starting on the 4 chord, the D. So we keep that same picking pattern, nothing new here. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong or get confused, because the bass guitar actually falls down to a C. But I watched some live footage, and Andy definitely does not fall down there. He stays in the same location. So he's still playing off of that D, but he's basically got a little melody going down the G string, that 9th fret, 7th fret to 5th fret. So it sounds like this when you put the first 2 measures together. Okay, so you're just voice leading that. And then we go down to the A again. And nothing new there, exact same thing. And then we just move that, what we did on A, up a whole step to B and do that exact same thing. And we end the chorus on 2 measures of E. And here's one of those variations that I was talking about. That first chorus ends like... So we just have a little melody on the 11th and 9th frets on the 4th and 3rd strings. So we go up that chord the same as before. And then this is where it changes a little bit. So we want to go to the 9th fret on the 3rd string, come back down to the 11th, and the 9th on the 4th string, and back up to the 9th on the 3rd string. And then we can start into the verse. Same as before. The next section of the song that we have to talk about is the bridge. The bridge is the easiest part of the song. It's 10 measures long and just goes back and forth between 2 chords. We are just going back and forth between an F bar chord and a G bar chord every other measure. So we hold F for measures 1 and 2, G for 3 and 4, F for 5 and 6, G for 7 and 8, and back to F for 9 and 10. And there's your 10 measures, just back and forth between those 2 chords. So if you're unfamiliar with bar chords, or they're a little bit of work for you, then this should be a good workout, sliding that back and forth. The only thing to really talk about is that big sound that they have. It's not just a simple strum, right? It's got a really big sound to it, and that can be accomplished by quickly strumming beforehand. Okay, so you're going to do a quick down, up, down, but be sure not to hit all the strings. If you go through all the strings, it doesn't quite have that right sound. You want to be really quick about it, but just go through a few of the bottom strings. And it gets that bigger attack to the beginning of that chord. And that's about it, guys. We just have to talk about wrapping up the song. We've covered all the riffs. Everything else that happens in the song, we've already covered. It's just the verse riff and the chorus and that bridge section. So the last thing to get out of the song is the verse. The final verse is only half as long as all of the other verses. So you play those first 8 measures exactly how you have been doing throughout the song. But then they tack on a 4-measure refrain at the end of that last verse. So that 4 measures is doing the D, E, and F sharp again. So that last verse does this. So we'll start at the beginning. Here's the refrain, back up to the D, E, and then F sharp for 4 measures. And then that gets you into the outro. The final outro that fades out is just a 4-measure progression that repeats around and around and around. And that progression is 2 measures on A, a measure on F sharp, and a measure on D with the same picking pattern that we've just covered. You just repeat those 4 measures around and around and around. So it's going to look like this. And just repeat it around starting on that A. And repeat. So it's just that A, the F sharp, and the D. 4 measures around and around and around. Fade out, and there you go. There's every part to the song. I hope you loved learning this awesome song. I've got a ton of killer tracks on the way. So if you love Tab with all of the songs that you're learning, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Drop all your song suggestions in the comments and I'll be sure to get to them as well. I'll see you next time.